welcome back to the revamped edition of the beginner series. Last time, we finally were able to unlock the Hyperion scope, and that's going to go a long way towards allowing us to start to level up a little more quickly. And as I mentioned at the end of the last video, that's going to be our focus today. And the first thing we want to do is go and shoot one more animal to get our weapon score high enough to actually unlock the 270 polymer tips, because that's just going to make it a little easier to take shots and not have to be so careful about getting perfect broadside angles. And that black-tailed doe, if we can get her to go broadside again, would be a pretty perfect way to get that last bit of XP. She kind of went broadside and then back. If we go behind the shoulder, that should kind of get back into the back of a lung and maybe even the liver. And it should take her down, especially using the 270 soft point bullets. We are currently, if we go into our codex, about, I think, 29 rifle score away from the polymer tip bullets for the 270s, so this black-tailed doe should definitely get us there. In fact, she did not make it all that far and kind of got hung up in this little tree here, but that should get us the 270 polymer tip bullets unlocked. Of course, we have to wait for all of the cache wars and all that to kind of come across, but as that's happening, the next step is to basically try to level up one more time and get the muscle memory perk. So we'll go and take a look at that just real quickly here. In the rifles is the first one. Level 1 unlocks the ability to ready your next shot without leaving A mode for rifle shotguns and handguns. And that is an opportunity to potentially take multiple animals out of the same herd. And because we were kind of in that menu, we did not see the prompt pop up to tell us that we got the 270 polymer tips unlocked, but we should be good with the amount of rifle score. It requires 1066. We are currently at 1084, so rather than go back to an outpost, I happen to know that there's one up in this area. It's right at the end of this road. Now, the proper way to do it would be to go down to this lookout, unlock it, and it would tell us where it is, but because I know it's there, we're going to go and check that out. And by the way, that is a tip you can use when you're starting out. On a lot of maps, if you're just kind of going through and you see a random road that just ends, a bunch of times that's going to be the location of an outpost, and you can use that to your advantage to kind of speed up the process of locating some of them. So finally, we are able to buy the 270 polymer tip bullets, and I think for the sake of trying to kind of level up a little more quickly, we'll go ahead and buy 2 packs of them, just to be able to stay out a little bit longer. And we can leave these soft point rounds in our inventory just in case we maybe run out and need a couple more. But we're primarily going to be using the polymer tip bullets from here on out, and we are just a couple XP away from the next level, so pretty much anything will do. Unlocking the outpost gave us another 100 XP, so we need literally 21 to get to level 5. So if we can find some kind of animal up here, we are going to take that out and go ahead and reach that next level. But going to the outpost was kind of twofold. Number one, of course, was to get the 270 polymer tip rounds, but the other side of it is we need to start kind of branching out and stop relying on just this main starting area to find deer. There are 2 areas we're going to focus on today other than the starting area, and those are Chila, which is up in here, and specifically these 3 lakes in Chila, and then Runagi down here on the west side after we kind of go through here just a little bit. Both of those areas are just loaded with game animals, and once you start to level up a bit more, have a little more cash to kind of like change the time and be able to hunt specific species, being able to have more areas to go, more outposts to fast travel to, and more species to take out is only going to speed up the process of leveling up. Well, I guess unlocking the lookout point will do just as well to get us to that next level. I was planning on getting something, but we're kind of in the transition period between blacktail and whitetail drink time, so blacktail might be starting to move in, and maybe we can catch some as we're going along here. I do want to go back to this outpost, but that does get us another perk point into level 5, so we can spend that on the muscle memory perk here in the rifle tree, and basically that means we can fire 2 shots without having to basically take the rifle off our shoulder, and rather than waste ammo, we'll find a herd of animals to do that. Actually, as blacktail are moving into their drink zones, this will probably be a good chance to test it out, but that's where things definitely can speed up when you can start to get multiple animals out of the same herd, and we'll talk about how to do that, ideally, in just a moment. I do want to make it clear that going for 2 animals out of the same herd is not exactly an easy thing to do, but you definitely can do it, and it definitely can allow you to start to level up a little more quickly. So the best way to do it, in my opinion, is take the more difficult shot first, so in this case the one that's going to be a little farther away, and we want the animal that we're going to shoot second to actually have its head down drinking. So we can take our first shot, she's going to lift her head. You've got a pretty good time frame in there until basically that animation from drinking ends and the animation to flee begins. That's where you can get that second shot in there, and we can look at that bright hunting pressure. We definitely got both of those does down, and that's just twice the XP from this one little area. And a lot of deer species travel in herds, like whitetail and blacktail, all over Layton Lakes. You can have those opportunities to get multiple deer down, and like I said earlier, it's only going to speed up the process. And at this point, I think it's where I should mention some of the DLCs. Now, this playthrough is going to be done like without any DLCs at all, but if you do want to get some, the Te Aroa map DLC, which by the way you can play in multiplayer without owning the DLC, can be really good for leveling up. Fallow deer on that map are everywhere, and they give really good cash and XP. Another good one is the Wild Goose Chase Gear DLC. That one you can use on Hirschfelden. You have the map already that is a part of the base game, and geese give, I think, the best cash and XP kind of like per time spent in the entire game. But again, if you don't want to purchase the DLCs, you can basically go this route, and you can do it on Hirschfelden if you want. I just prefer Layton Lakes for the species, and I think the number of animals that you find in, say, an hour or however much time you have to actually spend. But on that note, we should have 2 blacktail does down. One is somewhere right up here. We watched it drop after we made that shot, and the other one looks like we actually shot right there, so it's not going to be too far away. But I mean, yeah, assuming we got the same amount of XP for both, about 220 XP from 2 blacktail does that were just standing there in their drink zones. And yeah, I mean, 219, not too bad for 2 quick shots with the 270 there. Earlier I mentioned 2 different regions that we were going to focus on today, and we got our couple of blacktail out of Chila, and I wanted to come down here into Naki because there's a bit more big game, and I think in general a bit more deer to actually go after. But we've got a couple of elk here, and now that we have the 270 polymer tip rounds, we can be a lot more confident even taking a kind of quartering angle shot on a big animal like an elk. Now, I still think it's best to take the shots while the animal's head's up, and we'll still try to stay back behind the shoulder to avoid that. And as long as we can get a vital, they may run pretty far, but they will drop, and they will get us that XP and cash. So that guy is going to run off, and if we can keep an eye on him and see where he ends up, that's going to be ideal. And we talked about this in the last video, when they kind of start doing that sort of limping animation and then suddenly go to a full sprint. That does mean we made a fatal shot. He's going to run off and go down. And like I said earlier, if you don't intend to go the DLC route, this is going to be kind of the way to go, and we're going to start to work towards the 7mm. And in my opinion, Naki is one of the best regions to do it. There's an outpost not too far from here that we'll get, and actually I think it's going to be right here. Another kind of tip for locating outposts: when random little areas of the map kind of light up like this, I don't know why the game does it, but that also is usually indicating the location of an outpost, so we can go and get that. And the way that I would do it is start that outpost and pretty much follow the water north. Once again, we talked about it in the last video. Hunting near water tends to be one of the best ways to find animals, and there's just a ton of water. We can go all the way up through there, and in doing so we'll see all kinds of species, pretty much everything the Layton Lakes has to offer. And I do believe, since we shot a level 4 elk, we probably ended up with a gold as our first. 296.3 trophy rating, and that got us 200 XP and 953 cash, obviously with that 0% quick kill bonus, because we used the 270, and actually, we made about as good a shot as we could have. That lung, liver, stomach would help him go down a lot quicker than, say, a single lung, and maybe the 270 could have gotten into double lung or heart, but Midas going for those kind of shots, and given the angle, would have been really tough. That's about the ideal kind of turnout. So what we're going to do now is go and unlock that outpost, and we'll pretty much head north and at least take a quick look at what Renaki has to offer in terms of the amount of animals we see, and just basically how much XP there is to be gained here. And since we're here, the 7mm that we want, we can see here, is still locked for the moment, We need another 700 rifle score, which won't take that long to get, but the 36,000 cash, we're only sitting at about 5,000 right now. That is going to take a while to kind of accumulate, and again, I talked about having the mission system off for this playthrough specifically because I didn't want to be like talking over the reserve warden and just having the subtitles on screen. I figured it would be a little cleaner and a little simpler if we didn't do that, but the missions do give good cash rewards, so if you can work on missions as you're going around, you can be able to unlock that 7 mil just a little bit earlier, and that 7 mil is a good bit more powerful than the 270, and when we're taking out stuff like elk and moose, it would definitely help in that process of bringing them down and bring them down quickly, but for now the 270 is going to get the job done, and until we unlock the 7 mil, that's going to be our main weapon now. Even just a kind of quick look around kind of shows what kind of potential Runaki has for getting animals and gaining XP and cash quickly. In fact, we also have a moose kind of running by here, along with the herd of deer and elk. Now, I wanted to show something that can make the process of taking elk with the 270 a lot quicker, but it's also a lot riskier. If you're feeling good about your shots and if you feel like you can make these shots, you definitely can pretty much eliminate the tracking process and be able to get your elk down a lot more quickly. The way that we're going to do this is basically line ourselves up so that the elk is facing us. I'm not sure if we're going to shoot the level 4 or the, I guess, kind of narrower level 4 behind him. Since they both are 4s, we might take the back one since he's perfectly lined up, and we're essentially going to go for a neck shot. Now, you can kind of make it a little less risky by aiming higher in the neck, but with the 270 and the low penetration for an animal the size of an elk, I don't think that is going to matter. Now, I'd like to have the elk spotted just because I think it's going to make it a little bit easier to tell exactly where we're aiming. So, try to time this for when he goes to drink. Unfortunately, it's not going to help. But we're just going pretty much the center of the neck patch there, and we see he immediately drops, and that really can speed up the process. And if we were really trying, we probably could have stayed equipped with the 270 there and shot one of these guys as they were stopping, but we dropped one. I don't want to do too much here and have to go and track at the very end, but that's kind of a thing. Obviously, if you miss that next shot, you're not going to get a vital, and really with the 270, the elk's not going to go down. You'll have to get a follow-up shot, whereas with a lung shot, even if you end up too far back and get intestines, the elk eventually is going to drop. So just be aware of the risk if you're going for that shot. It's a kind of high risk, high reward shot, but if you feel like you can make it, it definitely can help you out. So we'll take a look here and see exactly what we did. We got ourselves another gold elk, and you can see the shot pretty much in the center of that neck bone there, but if you look at the penetration of that 270 round, you could aim up higher here in the neck, and if you miss it, you're just simply not going to reach back into the lungs. So it's really hit that neck or miss out on the shot, and you can see how small of a target you're aiming for. It's not much wider than the round itself going through there, versus the lungs, you got all this space back here, plus like I said, like liver and stomach and intestines. If your shot ends up too far back, it still can take them down. So again, be aware of the potential risk of going for these shots, but if you want to speed it up, if you don't like tracking, that is definitely something to try with the 270. And again, if you want to speed it up and don't have issues buying DLCs, there are a bunch of weapon packs that you can get that can also help you out in just having more firepower for those big game animals. But that is officially going to do it for this video, and you guys may have been aware that this video and the previous two for the beginner series were kind of pre-recorded. So at this point, I want to ask you guys, if there's anything specific you want covered in these videos, leave it in the comments below, and in the next couple of beginner series videos, we'll look into that sort of thing. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.